We are now past day 1 and 2 of the NFL 2023 draft, and the Miami Dolphins have made their selections at picks 51 and 84. I'm going to kind of go off script here today. I don't really have anything written up to kind of discuss about it. I'm just going to kind of freelance and talk about my thoughts on the signings and, the responses that Greer McDaniel gave at the press conference after they made their selections last night. The Dolphins selected cornerback Cam Smith at pick 51 and Devon Achane at pick 84. So initially right off the bat, my initial reaction to the signings was definitely not what I expected. I mean, I somewhat foresaw that maybe would have picked a defensive player in the draft, but certainly not a corner. And after thinking about it a bit more, I understand why. Xavier Howard's status with the Dolphins after this season is definitely, I wouldn't say it's secure for the future. So clearly this was Fangio's request. Obviously, there's nothing wrong with making our defense a little bit better here. Cam Smith is definitely a good prospect. I don't know if you're not aware already too, but Chris Greer's son played with Cam Smith at South Carolina, so there definitely was a little bit of a connection bias status there. So it's just kind of that's just a Greer thing to do, obviously. And then with Devon Achane, this was clearly something McDaniel wanted to have on his team. This guy is lightning fast. He ran a 4.32 on the 40-yard dash, slot receiver if he needs to. He was a pretty viable punt returner from what it looks like. And this dude's just gonna be able to cook. I think he's just gonna be a really fast, volatile player. This now means that we have 5 running backs on the team, which someone's gonna get cut. It's gonna be Savannah Ahmed or Myles Gaskin, one of the two. There's just absolutely no reason why we would have 5 running backs on the roster. What this running back drafting also does for us is, I think this kind of hurts the Dalvin Cook narrative a bit. I mean, I wouldn't say it's out of the question that we could still go and sign him, but why would we at this point? We'd have to rework a lot of different contracts, and just I don't really know. What does that mean for Raheem Mostert and Jeff Wilson Jr.? But one thing that I think is kind of like a big question mark is are Cam Smith and Devon Achane going to get play time this year? Are they going to be playing for starting positions? I personally think yes. I mean, we look at these 2 draft picks right now, and clearly they're building for the future, but I don't know if that's what we need at this moment in time. And I'll get to that in a little bit, because the draft in and of itself unfolded in a very strange way. There are personally a lot of things that I wish we pursued but didn't, and we'll kind of break it down a little bit more. But in regards to the 2 new Miami Dolphin players that we have, I'm totally down for it. I am content but a little disappointed, and we're going to get into why that is the case. So far this offseason, we haven't really done much with the offensive line. Greer has made it very clear that Austin Jackson, Liam Eichenberg are projected to be starting for the Dolphins for the 2023 season. They went and signed another guard, Dan Feeney, who personally I don't know if he's gonna win out that left guard position during the training camps. I mean, maybe slight chance, because looks at the end of the day too as well. It will not be hard for someone to beat out Liam and Austin for their positions. After the draftings selections were made for the Dolphins, Chris Greer basically came out and said, we hear what the fans are saying. We all think that the O-line and tight end positions are a problem. They claim they're not, which kind of tells us, okay, you've got faith in your plan and we should believe you, but you haven't done anything still. So I guess I think if you look at Austin Jackson's record for the 2022 season, performance and availability it could not get any worse. It could not get any worse for Austin Jackson. There is absolutely no way that Greer can sit there and say that Austin Jackson will be available for every single game moving forward. With that in mind, what I think they're going to do is when Byron Jones money becomes available after June 1st, it is inevitable that we are going to sign a veteran right tackle. It's just, what else? Because like, if you think about everything else they've done, they got Jalen Ramsey. We re-signed Andrew Van Ginkel. We got Braxton Berrios. We now have Cam Smith. We have Devon Achane. We re-signed the running backs. We got Mike White, David Long Jr. We have Bradley Chubb. We have all the other pieces that we need. And at this point in time, there is absolutely nothing else. Here's my question to all of you. What are they going to spend that money on when it's available June 1st? There's $13 million in cap space added to the Dolphins that they can use to spend on whatever they want. What else are they going to do? Greer is basically cornered now. Listen, you've got one more chance to make a move to help this O-line protect our quarterback, who, by the way, had 3 concussions. I don't care what the media says. It was 3 concussions. If the media and the sources came out and said 3 concussions, then there would be a lot of more. The narrative would change even more beyond what was already happening last season. I just want to preface that real quick. If you watch the film, it's way too obvious. So going back to the draft a second here, we obviously did not draft a tackle or a tight end, and I myself and a lot of you out there were really hoping that we would secure the bag on Georgia tight end Darnell Washington. I personally really thought that we were gonna land this guy. And if you think about it, like, you know, for Greer came out and said that they know what they need. We think we know what they need, but the issue is like, we see what happens on the field, and when you don't address it, when we say to address something and then that you don't, then the result happens that we all thought was gonna happen, then all of a sudden it puts you in a bad position. Darnell Washington is, people were saying, oh, this guy, why we want him? You know, he's got a knee injury history and a fractured foot. This guy can't catch the ball. What is a tight end? Tight end is a hybrid between a receiver and a blocker. Tell me one reason why you would send this guy with already the medical record on track, which, by the way, is the reason why his draft stock fell so low. The sheer fact that he fell to 93 was absolutely ridiculous. I can't even believe it. And the Steelers got him. The Steelers and the Eagles have had the best draft so far, without a doubt. The Seahawks are right behind them. We're average in the draft right now. He's a 6'7", 270-pound linebacker, tight end, that have literally been a 6th offensive lineman. Just have him block. All right, so it's like this. You know, people are saying, oh, well, we don't want him because of an injury history. We drafted Tua. He's had hip surgery, right? So the hip thing is a problem for Tua. So, okay, think to yourself for a second. How do you avoid someone's injury problems, or how do you avoid the injury problem from hindering performance? Well, don't make Tua run. When he doesn't run, he stays in the pocket. Guess what? He makes his throws. Well, how do you keep Darnell Washington from getting hurt? Don't make him run. Force him to apply pressure on the injured location. If he's just blocking, his sustainability is going to be a lot longer than if you make him go out and catch. Like, that's what Durham Smythe is there for. No? Just saying. I think that's really what it is. And so I sit there and go, okay, I mean, now, granted, I think the reason I was a little upset with the Washington thing, but then as he started to fall deeper into the 90s, it's very clear to me now that whatever the condition he must be in has to be way worse than we are aware of. And so I'm not totally upset with that, because if this is the kind of guy that could sustain a career-ending injury in his first season, then it's not worth a 3rd-round pick. The Steelers have, I think, that a good amount of capital, so they could afford it. I understand why Miami didn't pursue him now. I'm sure they wanted him, but the risk was probably too high, because if Washington did suffer that kind of injury, career-ending injury, then it would have been a waste of a pick. So I understand it. And to kind of bounce off that, I'll talk about another thing that we did this offseason that I don't think anyone else is really taking into consideration, is the fact that we signed Broncos tight end Eric Saubert. I didn't really touch on him a whole lot, and I kind of recapped his, film this morning a little bit. Truth is, this is a guy that I think we need to keep an eye on, because maybe he is the 6th lineman that we've been asking for, but didn't know was ready as we'd imagine. Here's why. If you go check out his PFF with his run block and pass block grades, this past season, they were consistently good and high. He had a 74 for the run block and a 77 for the passing block. Consistent in both areas is promising. So honestly, and Broncos fans, by the way, were a little upset they didn't keep him around. So that alone should tell you almost everything you need to know. The only concern I have with him, with being the only thing that's holding him back from being that pinnacle tight end blocking time that we need is his weight. Last checked, his weight is recorded at 253 pounds. If he, this offseason, depending on how his offseason goes for production and development, if he puts on that weight to get him past 260, I am more than confident that he could be the sixth lineman that Darnell Washington should have been for us. Because at the end of the day, that is what this team needs. We cannot go through the season again. If this team is going to keep Tua around, they have got to protect him. Like, why is he getting hit so much? Why are the concussions a problem? It's not Tua. It's the guys that are protecting him. They're not doing their job right. Same reason. This is why now the Steelers here's another thing about Washington too as well, about the Pittsburgh Steelers. They have him now. Kenny Pickett, he had 2 concussions too. They are probably ecstatic to have that guy in their roster right now. No doubt about it. I'm actually more worried about the Steelers now. They're actually probably going to be pretty solid this year. They could very well make the Ravens and Bengals. I don't know, depending on Pickett. It's all going to be depending on Kenny Pickett's production. But I'm going to tell you right now, the Steelers are going to be in a way better position. They got a new tackle and a good tight end. They're going to have a really good O-line moving into the season. I think at this point now, we just have to kind of hope and pray that with the Byron Jones money, we just address the O-line positions, because at the end of the day, there's nothing else they can go and do. They're cornered to where if they don't do something, just sign someone, okay? If Eric Saubert offseason production hands out well, and he does what I believe he should do to be a suitable blocker, then I am totally down for that. And when it comes to the tackle position, I mean, get a right tackle. Sign a vet right tackle. Eric Saubert has a good offseason. I know there's rumors about Tanner Connor being converted to the tight position, but I'm not so the weight's not there. He's only like 233, 236. It's not enough to be able to be a blocking tight end, because that is what this team needs right now. Sauber could be that guy, which is fine, but the thing is, Washington already was. You wouldn't have to develop someone into that. That is the difference between Washington and Sauber. Washington already has the build. Eric has to build himself up. He can do it, but at the end of the day, you just don't know. So that's my initial thoughts. Let me know what you guys think. Do you think we're going to sign a veteran right tackle when the Byron Jones money becomes available? I think so. I think the Dalvin Cook narrative is maybe out of the question. Maybe Cedric Wilson Jr. trade results in us getting someone else. I think if we were going to get a tight end at this point, we'd have to trade for someone. That's the only way. But I don't know who to even get, to be honest with you. So yeah, just kind of laying my thoughts on the table. Let me know what you guys think down below. And yeah, I'll keep you updated as things go on.